The transport shuttle moved slowly through the darkness of space. Commander Laura stood near the window and watched the stars pass by. She had been a soldier for 15 years. She had seen death. She had seen victory. She had buried friends and saved strangers. But today was different. Today she was going to face something she had never faced before. The Galactic Dominion. Laura was a human, and humans were new to the galaxy. Other species had traveled between stars for thousands of years. They had built empires. They had fought wars. They had created laws and governments that covered half the known universe. And then they had found Earth. The aliens had not been impressed. To them, humans were children, bobbies who had just learned to walk. The Dominion allowed humanity to join their alliance, but only barely. Humans were given old ships, bad territories, and no respect. They were told to sit down, stay quiet, and be grateful. Laura hated it. She looked at her reflection in the window. She was 42 years old, with short brown hair and tired eyes. Her face had lines from years of stress and worry. Her hands had scars from battles she tried not to remember. She wore a simple navy blue uniform with only 3 small ribbons on her chest. Each ribbon told a story of survival. The first was from the Battle of Saul's Edge, when they had tried to destroy Earth. Laura had been a young officer then, serving on a small destroyer. The human fleet had been outnumbered 10-1. They had fought anyway. For 18 hours they had held the line while waiting for Dominion help. 60% of human ships were destroyed, but they had won. They had been stopped. The second ribbon was from the campaign, a colony world. 3,000 humans taken hostage by soldiers. The Dominion had said to wait. Laura had said no. She had led 400 Marines into the jungle and fought for 6 weeks. They had saved almost everyone. The third ribbon was silver, small and simple. It marked her as a survivor of the Prometheus incident. She did not like to talk about that one. She still had nightmares about the fire, the screaming, the bodies of her friends. Behind her, Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes cleared his throat. He was her second in command, a solid man with a round face and calm eyes. He had served with her for 8 years. He knew her better than anyone. "We're almost there," he said. Laura nodded but did not turn around. Through the window, she could see their destination growing larger. Dominion Central Command. It was a space station the size of a small moon, built from crystal and metal and materials she could not name. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "The Admiral's orders were clear," Daniel continued. "Represent humanity at the Joint Military Council. Show them we belong." "Show them we belong," Laura repeated quietly, as if 15 years of fighting wasn't enough. "To them it's not." Daniel moved to stand beside her. "They have been in charge for 6,000 years. They joined 3,000 years ago. The 2,000, we've been here for less than a century. To them, we're still in diapers." Laura finally looked at him. "And you think I can change that?" "No," Daniel smiled slightly. "I think you're too stubborn to accept it, and sometimes that's enough." The shuttle docked with a soft sound. Laura straightened her uniform and checked her appearance one more time. She carried no weapons. This was supposed to be a diplomatic mission, but she knew better. The Dominion was always fighting, even when they were smiling. "Any advice?" she asked. Daniel thought for a moment. "Don't bow, don't apologize, and whatever you do, don't let them see you bleed." Laura nodded once and walked toward the airlock. The interior of the station was overwhelming. The corridors were wide enough for creatures of all sizes. The walls glowed with soft light. The air smelled strange, like flowers and metal mixed together. Everywhere Laura looked, she saw aliens. They were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on their mood. They moved like water, graceful and silent. They were smaller, covered in feathers with sharp beaks and even sharper eyes. They perched on elevated platforms and watched everything below. They were massive, made of living rock, each step shaking the floor beneath them. And then there were the... Laura had studied them carefully before this trip. They were the rulers of the Dominion. They had evolved on a planet so dangerous that 90% of all species there went extinct. Only the strongest, fastest, and had survived. There were all three. They stood almost 8 feet tall, covered in black fur that seemed to absorb light. Their eyes were golden and could see in complete darkness. Their claws could cut through steel. Their society was built on one simple rule: the strong lead, the weak follow. They did not share power easily. And Guard approached Laura as she walked through the corridor. He was young, probably a junior officer, but he still towered over her. "Human," he said, his voice deep and rumbling. "You are commander." "I am." "Follow me, the council is waiting." He turned and walked away without checking if she was following. Laura kept pace, her shorter legs working twice as hard to match his stride. She refused to run. She refused to ask him to slow down. If this was a test, she would pass it. They walked for nearly 20 minutes. The station was enormous, and the council chamber was at its center. Finally, they reached a massive door, easily 50 feet tall, carved with symbols Laura did not recognize. "Beyond this door is the Joint Military Council," the guard said. "You will wait to be acknowledged. You will speak only when spoken to. You will show respect to your betters." Laura looked up at him. "I always show respect to those who earn it." The guard's golden eyes narrowed. For a moment, Laura thought he might attack her. Then slowly his lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Interesting," he said. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as I thought." He pushed open the door, and Laura stepped inside. The chamber was vast. Seats rose in circles around a central platform, hundreds of them, filled with representatives from every species in the Dominion. The ceiling disappeared into darkness far above. The floor was made of something that looked like glass but felt solid beneath her boots. And at the very top, looking down at her like a god watching an insect, sat General of the High Command. He was old for his species, his black fur streaked with silver, but his golden eyes were sharp, and his presence filled the room like a physical force. When he spoke, his voice echoed off every wall. "Commander of Earth, you may take your seat." Laura looked at the human section. It was at the bottom of the chamber, the lowest position possible. A clear message: "You are beneath us." She did not sit. "Thank you, General," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite its softness. "I prefer to stand." The chamber went silent. Every eye turned to her, and somewhere far above, General leaned forward with sudden interest. The game had begun. General stared down at Laura for a long moment. His golden eyes did not blink. His massive body was perfectly still. The silence in the chamber was so complete that Laura could hear her own heartbeat. "You prefer to stand," repeated slowly. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous beneath it. "This is the Joint Military Council of the Galactic Dominion. When I tell you to sit, human, you sit." Laura kept her eyes on him. Her legs were already starting to ache. The journey had been long, and she had not slept well, but she had studied culture carefully. She knew that sitting before a senior officer gave permission was a sign of surrender. She knew that standing was not disrespect, just a statement that she considered herself his equal. She was not his equal, not in power, not in rank, not in anything that mattered to the Dominion, but she would not show weakness, not here, not now. "With respect, General," she said, "I will stand until the council is formally opened. It is my right under Dominion protocol." A ripple of movement passed through the chamber. They shifted in their seats, their skin flickering through shades of blue and purple. They leaned forward on their perches, feathers rustling. Even the, usually so still, seemed to turn their massive heads toward her. His claws extended slightly from his fingers. Each one was as long as Laura's hand, curved and sharp. Then slowly they retracted. "Very well," he said. "Let the council convene." The session that followed was exactly what Laura had expected. It was long, it was boring, and it was designed to make her feel small. For 3 hours, the delegates discussed trade routes, military deployments, and diplomatic agreements. Important decisions were made, but Laura was not asked for her opinion. When she tried to speak, someone would interrupt her. When she raised her hand, she was ignored. When she finally managed to make a comment about supply lines to the outer territories, a delegate dismissed her with a wave of his long fingers. "The human means well," he said, "but she does not understand the complexities of galactic logistics." Laura felt her anger rise, hot and sharp. She wanted to shout. She wanted to demand respect. But she had been in politics long enough to know that anger was a weapon others could use against you. So she swallowed it down and remained standing. Her back hurt, her feet hurt, her pride hurt most of all. Throughout the session, she watched General. He said little but controlled everything. When he spoke, others fell silent. When he gestured, debates ended. He was the true power in this room, and everyone knew it. Finally, as the session neared its end, addressed her directly. "Commander, the Dominion has made a decision regarding human military forces." Laura straightened her spine. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "Human ships will be assigned to patrol the Gamma sector," continued. "You will report to Fleet Commander. You will follow protocols. You will obey orders." The words hit Laura like a punch to the stomach. Gamma sector was empty space, far from any real conflict. It was where the Dominion sent species they wanted to forget. This was not an assignment. It was an exile. "You're sending us to the edge of nowhere," she said quietly. "We are assigning you duties appropriate to your capabilities." "Our capabilities?" Laura felt the anger rising again, harder to control this time. "General, human forces held the line at Saul's Edge for 18 hours. We stopped an invasion with ships that were 20 years out of date. We saved 3,000 colonists on 442B when the Dominion told us to let them die." "And yet you remain a young species," replied calmly, "unproven in the ways that matter." "Unproven?" Laura's voice rose slightly. "What more do you need? How many of my people have to die before we're considered worthy?" The chamber went quiet again. Laura realized that she was breathing hard, her hands clenched at her sides. She had lost control, even if only for a moment. That was a mistake. His eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement. "Passion is not a substitute for experience, Commander. They have led this Dominion for 6,000 years. We have seen species like yours before, brave, angry, certain of their own importance." He paused. "Most of them are extinct now." Laura forced herself to breathe slowly. She had to think. She had to be smart. Getting angry would not help her people. She needed a different approach. "General," she said, her voice calm again, "may I ask a question?" Tilted his head slightly. "You may." "What is my rank within this council?" The question seemed to surprise him. His ears flicked forward, then back. "You are a commander. In terms, you would be considered a minor pack leader. You hold no significant authority here." "I see." Laura nodded slowly. "And the Dominion's opinion of human military strength is based on what evidence exactly?" "Your species is young. You lack the history, the discipline, and the experience of elder races." "With respect, General, I believe you are wrong." Laura kept her voice steady. "And I believe I can prove it." The chamber erupted in whispers. A human challenging the general. This was unprecedented, scandalous, possibly suicidal. Raised one massive hand, and the whispers stopped. "You wish to challenge the judgment of this council?" "No, General. I wish to present evidence. The Dominion Charter guarantees all member species the right to present evidence in matters affecting their military standing." Laura had memorized every relevant law during her journey. "Article 7, Section 3. I invoke that right." For a long moment no one spoke. Then from the section a voice emerged. "She speaks correctly. The charter is clear. The right is hers." His claws scraped against his armrest. Laura could see the frustration in his body language. He wanted to refuse her. He wanted to crush this challenge before it went any further. But the law was the law, and even the general had to follow it. "Very well, Commander." His voice was cold now, dangerous. "Present your evidence. But I warn you, if you waste this council's time, there will be consequences." Laura reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small data chip. Her hand was steady. Her heart was not. "Display," she said, and the chamber's holographic systems activated. The evidence was about to speak for itself. The holographic display filled the center of the chamber with light. A star map appeared, showing thousands of points scattered across the galaxy. Red markers indicated attacks. Blue markers showed where the Dominion had responded. Laura began to speak. Her voice was clear and calm. She had practiced this moment in her mind 100 times. For the past 100 years, the Confederacy has launched an average of 12 major attacks per decade into Dominion space. She pointed at clusters of red markers. The Dominion has successfully stopped about 60% of these attacks. The other 40% resulted in lost territory, dead civilians, or long and costly wars. She let that information settle. 60% success rate. For a civilization that had existed for thousands of years, that was not impressive. "Now," Laura continued, "let me show you the outer territories." The display zoomed to the edge of the map. More red markers appeared, thick as a wound. "This region is far from your core worlds. When they attack here, it takes Dominion fleets 6 to 8 weeks to respond. By the time help arrives, the damage is already done. Colonies are destroyed. People are dead. They are gone." Murmurs rose from the delegates. Laura could see discomfort on many faces. The outer territories were a known problem, but no one liked being reminded of failures. "Now," she said, "let me show you human space." The display changed. A small region appeared near the edge of the galaxy, marked in green. It looked tiny compared to the rest of the map. "Humanity has been traveling between stars for about 200 years. In that time, we have faced 4 major attacks." Laura paused. "We stopped all 4. The murmurs grew louder. General leaned forward in his seat, his golden eyes fixed on the display. "The Battle of Saul's Edge is known to everyone in this room," Laura continued. "What is less known is that human ships engaged the fleet for 18 hours before Dominion reinforcements arrived. Our ships were older, slower, and weaker than theirs. We were outnumbered 10 to 1. She changed the display. Images appeared of burning ships, desperate battles, human crews fighting against impossible odds. "We lost 60% of our fleet that day. Thousands of our people died." Laura's voice hardened. "The lost 100%, every single ship, every single soldier. We did not just delay them, General, we destroyed them." "That victory was achieved with Dominion assistance," interrupted. "Your ships merely held position until we arrived." "We held position while dying." Laura met his gaze without flinching. "And if we had not, your reinforcements would have arrived to find Earth burned to ash. 20 billion people would be dead. There would be no human delegation in this chamber today." The general said nothing. Laura continued. "But Saul's Edge was not unique. Let me show you what happened on 442b." The display changed again. A green world appeared, covered in thick jungle and strange fungal forests. It looked beautiful and deadly at the same time. 2 years ago, ground forces established a secret base on this human colony. When they were discovered, they took 3,000 colonists hostage. Laura's jaw tightened. The official Dominion recommendation was to blockade the planet and wait. Estimated time until resolution, 18 months. Estimated civilian survival rate, 0. "The do not negotiate," a delegate said from his perch. "Everyone knows this." "Exactly, which is why we did not negotiate." The display showed tactical maps, troop movements, and battle damage reports. I led a ground force of 400 Marines into that jungle. We had limited supplies. We had no support from the Dominion. We had orders from our own government to wait. Laura's voice dropped. We did not wait. She showed images now. Dense forest, burning buildings, human soldiers fighting hand to hand against warriors twice their size. We fought for 6 weeks, day and night. We lost 112 good people. Her voice cracked slightly and she paused to control it. We rescued 2,783 civilians. The remaining 217 had been killed by the before we arrived. We could not save them, but we saved everyone else. The chamber was silent, even had gone still. The Dominion called 442B an acceptable loss, Laura said quietly. We called it home, and we do not abandon our homes. She turned off the tactical display and let the hologram fade. The chamber seemed darker now, smaller somehow. You want to know what humans bring to this alliance? She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates from a dozen different species. We bring stubbornness. We bring anger. We bring the absolute refusal to give up, no matter how bad things look. When the Dominion tells us a situation is hopeless, we fight anyway. When you tell us our people are lost, we go find them. She turned back to, You call us cubs, General. You call us children playing at war. You say we lack experience. She took a step forward, then another. Maybe you're right. We have not been fighting for thousands of years like you. We do not have your history or your wisdom. She was close to him now, closer than any human had ever dared. She could smell the musk of his fur, could see the individual hairs on his massive arms. But we have something else. We have the willingness to die for what we believe in. We have the courage to stand up when everyone tells us to sit down. Her voice rose slightly. We have heart, General, and in my experience, heart wins more battles than history ever did. She stepped back and stood at attention. I am not asking you to respect humanity because of what we might become. I am asking you to respect us because of what we have already done. We have earned our place in this alliance. We have paid for it in blood. The silence stretched on and on. Laura could feel sweat running down her back, could feel her legs trembling from hours of standing. But she did not move. She did not look away. Finally, General spoke. You make a compelling argument, Commander. His voice was strange, hard to read. But arguments are easy. Actions are difficult. The Dominion has seen many brave species make bold claims. Most of them are now forgotten. Then give us a chance to prove ourselves, Laura said. Not with words, with deeds. His ears flicked. His claws extended and retracted. For a moment, something almost like respect flickered in his golden eyes. Perhaps, he said slowly, perhaps we shall. And then from the back of the section, a small voice spoke. Father. Every head in the chamber turned. The voice came from the upper section of the chamber, where the delegation sat in their elevated seats. It was small and young, nothing like the deep rumble of General. Every eye in the room turned toward the sound. Laura looked up and saw a young standing near the back row. The cub was small, barely 5 feet tall, with silver fur that caught the light. Her eyes were wide and curious, golden like her father's but somehow softer. She looked to be about 12 years old in human terms, still a child by any measure. General's expression changed immediately. The cold warrior's face softened into something almost gentle. What are you doing here? This is a military council. Mother said I could watch. The cub named stepped forward, her movements careful and precise. She said it was important to see how leadership works. This is not the time for lessons. His voice was firm but not angry. In society, cubs held a special place. They were the future of the pack, protected and valued above almost everything else. Even in a moment like this, even with the entire Dominion watching, a father could not dismiss his child harshly. But I have a question, said. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber, innocent and unafraid. May I ask it? Hesitated. Laura watched him carefully, trying to understand what was happening. She had studied culture, but she had never seen this situation before. A cub speaking at a military council. It seemed impossible. But nodded slowly. "Ask your question." Turned her golden eyes toward Laura. They were curious, thoughtful, without any of the hostility or suspicion that the adult showed. She looked at Laura the way a child looks at something new and interesting. "Human," she said, "why do you stand?" The question was so simple that Laura almost laughed. After hours of political games and careful arguments, after facing down the most powerful military leader in the galaxy, a child had asked the most direct question possible. Laura considered her answer carefully. This was not a debate or a negotiation. This was something else entirely. "Because sitting would be giving up," she said honestly, "and I do not give up." Tilted her head the way a curious animal might. "But you've been standing for hours. Your legs must hurt." "They do." "Then why not rest?" "Because some things are more important than comfort." Laura kept her voice gentle, speaking to the cub the way she might speak to a young recruit. "I am here to represent my people. If I show weakness, they will think all humans are weak. I cannot allow that." Processed this for a moment, then she turned back to her father. "Father, you taught me about the pack. You said the alpha is the one who protects the others, the one who leads the hunt, the one who never leaves the weak behind." "I did," said carefully. "The human said her people do not abandon their own. She said they fought for weeks to save their pack members, even when everyone else said they were lost." His voice was steady, certain with the confidence of youth. "That sounds like an alpha to me." The chamber exploded. Delegates from every species began talking at once. The flickered through a dozen colors, their emotions visible on their skin, the screeched from their perches, the rumbled deep sounds that shook the floor. Everyone seemed to have an opinion, and everyone wanted to share it at the same time. But Laura was not watching them. She was watching. The general had gone completely still. His golden eyes were wide, his ears pressed flat against his head. His claws were fully extended, gripping the armrests of his seat so hard that the material cracked beneath them. Laura understood immediately what had happened. In culture, a cub's observation was considered pure and honest. Children had not yet learned to lie or play political games. When a cub spoke, they spoke truth as they saw it. Their words carried a special weight that even the most powerful adults had to respect. And had just declared Laura an alpha. If disagreed with his daughter publicly, he would shame her in front of the entire Dominion. That was unthinkable for a parent. But if he agreed, he would be admitting that a human deserved the same status as themselves. That could change everything about the power structure of the galaxy. Laura held her breath. She had not planned this. She had not even known the cub was present. But somehow, a child had seen something that a room full of generals had refused to acknowledge. The noise in the chamber continued to grow. Arguments were breaking out between delegations. Someone was shouting about protocol. Someone else was demanding that the cub be removed. And then spoke again. Her voice was not loud, but somehow it cut through all the chaos. Maybe it was some quality of the chamber's acoustics. Maybe it was something else. But when she opened her mouth, everyone fell silent to listen. "She is alpha." 5 words, that was all, but they changed everything. The hall became quiet at once. Laura felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. Species she did not even know the names of, all of them staring, waiting, wondering what would happen next. Slowly rose from his seat. He was massive, nearly 8 feet of muscle and fur and ancient power. His golden eyes fixed on Laura with an intensity that made her want to look away. She did not look away. "The cub has invoked judgment," said. His voice was heavy with something Laura could not identify. "Do you understand what that means, human?" Laura shook her head slightly. "No." In tradition, when a cub declares alpha status for an outsider, the claim must be tested. Began to descend from his platform, each step slow and deliberate. This is not politics. This is not debate. This is pack law. He reached the bottom and stood before her. This close, Laura could see every detail of his face. The scars beneath his fur from old battles, the hairs mixed with black, the weight of 6,000 years of leadership in his eyes. "You will be given a mission," he said. "A true mission, not a patrol. If you succeed, humanity will be recognized as full partners in the Dominion. You will have real authority, real respect." Laura's heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. "And if I fail?" His lips pulled back, showing teeth that could crush bone. "Then you will be dead, and none of this will matter." Laura looked past him, up to where Still stood. The cub was watching with those wide, curious eyes. She had changed the course of history with a few simple words, and she probably did not even understand what she had done. Laura looked back at. "I accept." The general studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, something shifted in his expression. It was not friendship, it was not trust, but it might have been the beginning of respect. "Then let us discuss the details," he said, "in private." He turned and walked toward a side door. Laura followed, her legs screaming in protest after hours of standing. Behind her, the chamber erupted into noise again, but Laura did not look back. She was already thinking about what came next. The test was about to begin. The private chamber was smaller than Laura had expected. Simple walls, a round table, 2 chairs. No decoration, no symbols of power, just a place for honest conversation. General sat across from her. Without the audience of the council, he seemed different. Still powerful, still dangerous, but somehow more real. More like a soldier and less like a politician. "The Theta Nebula," he said without introduction. "Our scouts have found a staging ground there. 30 warships preparing for an attack on Dominion core worlds." Laura felt cold. 30 warships was a significant force. The kind of force that could destroy colonies, kill millions of people. "When is the attack planned?" she asked. "We do not know. Soon. Perhaps weeks. Perhaps days." Claws tapped against the table. "The Dominion has been debating how to respond. Some want to wait and gather more intelligence. Some want to negotiate. Some want to simply strengthen our defenses and hope for the best." "And you?" "I want to destroy them." His golden eyes gleamed. "But I cannot act alone. The council is divided and my authority has limits." Laura understood. This was not just a test for humanity. It was also an opportunity to accomplish something the council had been too afraid to do. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Leadership." The word seemed to cost him something. "Your people have something mine have lost over the centuries. Hunger, desperation, the willingness to take risks that more civilized species would consider insane. You want us to lead the attack." "I want you to win," leaned forward. "I will give you 6 Dominion cruisers crewed by volunteers. The human fleet will join them. Together, you will have enough firepower to challenge the... But 30 ships is still a formidable enemy. Many will die." Laura nodded slowly. "I need complete tactical authority. If crews won't follow my orders in battle, we'll fail. My people do not easily follow outsiders." "Then we will fail," Laura repeated. "General, I have spent my entire career fighting the... I know how they think. I know how they move. I know their weaknesses. Your crews are skilled, but they do not have my experience with this enemy. If you want this mission to succeed, you have to trust me." The silence stretched between them. Laura could see struggling with the idea. 6,000 years of superiority, and now he was being asked to put his people under human command. Finally, he spoke. "If you betray that trust, I will kill you myself. If I betray that trust, I will deserve it." Something shifted in his expression. Respect, perhaps, or at least the acknowledgement that Laura was not like the politicians he usually dealt with. Very well, you will have tactical authority during the engagement. My crews will follow your orders. He stood. You have 3 weeks to prepare. Use them wisely. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Laura's life. She worked 18 hours a day, planning the attack, training with officers, learning how to communicate across species barriers. Daniel was at her side constantly, handling logistics, solving problems, keeping everything running smoothly. The crews were suspicious at first. They had never served under alien command. They did not understand human tactics or human thinking, but Laura was patient. She explained her reasoning. She listened to their concerns. She showed them respect. Slowly, trust began to build. Captain was the first to come around. He was the commander of the lead cruiser, a veteran of dozens of campaigns. After watching Laura run tactical simulations for a week, he approached her privately. "Your plans are unconventional," he said, "risky." "Yes, they might actually work." Laura allowed herself a small smile. "That is the idea." The attack came on a cold morning in human reckoning. Laura stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, her flagship, watching the Theta Nebula fill with purple and gold light. Somewhere in that beautiful cloud of gas and dust, 30 warships waited. "All ships report ready," Daniel said from his station. Laura nodded. "Open a channel to the fleet." A moment later, she was speaking to every ship under her command, human and standing together for the first time. "This is Commander. In a few minutes we will engage the enemy. Some of us will not survive. I will not lie to you about that." She paused, letting the words settle. "But I want you to remember why we are here. Not for glory, not for politics. We are here because somewhere out there, innocent people are going to die if we do not stop these attackers. We are here to protect them." She looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared. So was she. "Fight well, watch each other's backs, and no matter what happens, do not give up." She took a breath. "Let us begin." The battle was chaos. Laura had planned for every possibility she could imagine, but war never followed plans perfectly. Ships exploded. Communications were disrupted. The fought with the desperate fury of cornered animals. For 9 hours, the combined fleet battled through the nebula. Laura made decisions in seconds that determined whether hundreds of people lived or died. She sent ships into danger and watched them burn. She ordered retreats and advances, feints and ambushes. And through it all, the crews followed her commands. Captain led a devastating attack on the flank, destroying 5 enemy ships in a single pass. When his cruiser took heavy damage, Laura sent human destroyers to protect him. When a dreadnought threatened to break through the line, and human ships worked together to bring it down. It was not perfect. Nothing in war ever was, but it was enough. When the last ship surrendered, Laura felt tears running down her face. She did not wipe them away. "Damage report," she said quietly. Daniel's voice was rough with exhaustion. 17 ships destroyed, 8 captured, 5 escaped. He paused. "We lost 12% of our people, the lost 8%. Too many good people who would never go home, but they had won." 2 weeks later, Laura returned to Dominion's Central Command. The council chamber looked different now. A new platform had been constructed, level with the delegation. Human-sized chairs were arranged in a semicircle, comfortable and dignified. Laura walked to her new position and stood beside her seat. Old habits were hard to break. General descended from his platform and crossed the chamber floor. He stopped in front of her, towering over her as he had that first day. But something was different in his eyes. "Commander," his voice carried through the chamber. "The Dominion recognizes the valor of human forces in the Battle of Theta Nebula. From this day forward, humanity is acknowledged as a full military partner of the Galactic Dominion." Laura inclined her head. "Thank you, General." Inclined his head in return, the gesture of equals. From the upper section, Laura heard a small sound. She looked up and saw watching, her silver fur catching the light. The cub made a gesture with her hand, claws retracted, palm facing outward. Laura did not know what it meant, but she did as best she could. Later, Daniel told her it was the sign for Pack's sister. As Laura finally took her seat for the first time, she thought about everything that had brought her here. The battles, the losses, the long nights and hard choices, the friends she had buried and the strangers she had saved. She thought about humanity, small and young and stubborn, a species that refused to give up, refused to accept failure, refused to abandon their own no matter the cost. The Dominion had existed for 6,000 years. It had seen empires rise and fall. It had watched countless species come and go. But it had never seen anything quite like humans. And Laura intended to make sure they never forgot. She looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. And now humans, equal partners, true allies. It was only the beginning. But what a beginning it was.